Well, it took him more than 24 hours, but the breaking and totally unsurprising news of the night is that Donald Trump, on his way into that restaurant tonight, finally said the words, "It's not my signature." And in the same sentence, Donald Trump threw in a lie. Quote, "It's not the way I speak, and anybody that's covered me for a long time knows that's not my language."
It's not my signature, and it's not the way I speak. And anybody that's covered me for a long time knows that's not my language.
Donald Trump didn't say which words in the Epstein birthday book letter with his signature are not his language. The night the Wall Street Journal first published the letter on July 17th, I was among those who at first thought enigma was an unlikely word for Donald Trump to use. But then we immediately, in about a 4-second Google search, found video of Donald Trump correctly using the word enigma at one of his rallies in his first campaign for president.
Carson's an enigma to me. I didn't say it.
Every other word in the Donald signed birthday message to Jeffrey Epstein is in the vocabulary of the average first grader in America. Donald tells Jeffrey in that message, "We have certain things in common, Jeffrey." And Donald says, "Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret." What do you mean that's not my language? That's everyone's language. And so, in the very same sentence, when Donald Trump said tonight, "That's not my signature," he lied and said, "That's not my language." Of course it's your language. It's everyone's language. Even enigma is your language, Donald. Donald Trump was then asked a question to which he convincingly said, "I haven't even thought about it."
So will you meet with the Epstein victims? Do you plan to meet with?
I don't know about, nobody suggested that.
But would you be open to doing
certainly
that?
I don't like that whole situation with respect to anybody being abused or hurt, but I haven't even thought about that.
Of course, he hasn't even thought about that. That may be the one honest thing Donald Trump has said about Jeffrey Epstein and his survivors. Of course, he hasn't thought about them. Andrew Weissman made the wise point last night on this program that Donald Trump has done everything he can possibly do to dehumanize people. He did it in his first campaign speech of his career as a presidential candidate, dehumanizing people crossing the southern border, desperate to find a better life in this country, calling them rapists and criminals. He then went on to use Adolf Hitler's language to describe people in this country, including people who vote for Democratic candidates. He has called us vermin. That is Hitler's word. Donald Trump tries to dehumanize anyone who doesn't vote for him. Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell dehumanized their victims. Donald Trump was very close friends with Jeffrey Epstein. According to Jeffrey Epstein, for 10 years, Jeffrey Epstein said, "I was Donald's closest friend for 10 years. Ghislaine Maxwell, the dehumanizer of those women, some of whom she met when they were little girls, completely ignores the pain of the girls she chose to victimize because she dehumanized them. She didn't think of them as people. The rich heiress who was suddenly penniless when her rich father lost all of his money and then desperately clung to Jeffrey Epstein's money, dehumanized those girls because she believed they were born beneath her station in life and they would always be beneath her." And so tonight, Donald Trump said, "I haven't even thought about that." And that's very believable coming from Donald Trump. That's what Donald Trump said tonight about meeting with Epstein survivors. And Donald Trump said, you just heard him say, nobody suggested that. Those were his words. Nobody suggested that. No, nobody working for Donald Trump. Nobody except the Epstein survivors themselves, who Donald Trump dehumanizes to the point of ignoring what they said directly to him.
President Trump, you have so much influence and power in this situation. Please use that influence and power to help us, because we need it now.
We are the Americans that you promised to protect, and we need your help. Please, President Trump, pass this bill and help us. Make us feel like our voices are finally being heard.
I cordially invite you to the Capitol to meet me in person so you can understand this is not a hoax. We are real human beings. This is real trauma.
Donald Trump called them a hoax. While the Epstein survivors outside the Capitol last night were speaking, Donald Trump called them a hoax. He dehumanized them while they were speaking. He said in clear Trumpian language, they're not human beings to me. No one should listen to them. They're a hoax. When the survivors were told what Donald Trump said about them outside the Capitol, some of them responded.
We're here in person. To say that it's a hoax is just not... Please humanize us. I would like Donald J. Trump and every person in America and around the world to humanize us, to see us for who we are and to hear us for what we have to say. There is no hoax. The abuse was real.
I voted for Trump, and for him to say what he's saying is beyond me, because I put my hope in him and he's supposed to protect us. None of us are up there accusing him of anything. There is no one that is accusing him of any wrongdoing. So for the fact that he is saying those things and saying it's a hoax, who are you hiding for then? Because if it's not you, then who is it? And that scares me. Who is it?
Earlier today, NBC's Garrett Haake had a brief phone call with Donald Trump in which Donald Trump called the Epstein birthday book and the letter with his name on it, quote, a dead issue. And Donald Trump refused to comment on it, saying, quote, I don't comment on something that's a dead issue. Garrett Haake reported on that at 8:40 a.m. And 11 hours later, Donald Trump decided to comment on the dead issue, which obviously is not a dead issue. And this time, Donald Trump said, it's not my signature. Well, it looks like his signature. It looks exactly like his signature that I showed you last night on a note that Donald Trump sent to me in January of 2016. And it looks like the one name, Donald signature, that appears on other letters he sent to other people that have been made public. So we all have a perfect right to guess or conclude that that is Donald Trump's signature on that letter. You're allowed to believe your eyes when you look at those signatures. It was the estate of Jeffrey Epstein that handed over the Epstein birthday book in response to a congressional subpoena, and the estate plans to produce additional documents soon. Daniel Weiner, an attorney for the Epstein estate, told NBC News, quote, as agreed with the House Oversight Committee, the estate is making a rolling production of documents responsive to the committee's subpoena. We hope to be producing additional documents soon. And so it's not a dead issue. More is coming, much more. And Donald Trump will pretend at some point, again, that it's a dead issue. But then, because in the tiny contours of his brain, his insistence that it's a dead issue lives right beside his desperate need to comment on everything. And so he will be unable to refrain from commenting on the additional documents as they come out. Republican Congressman Thomas Massie, who is leading an effort in the House of Representatives with Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna to force the release of the Epstein files from the Justice Department, said this today.
I'm not a forensic expert, but it looks like his signature.
The White House has denied that. They've said that it's not his. The whole thing is a hoax. I mean, are they hurting their own case here?
It's a hoax, 10, 20 years in the making, if the letter is a hoax, it seems like.
So Donald Trump insults your intelligence by wanting you to believe that 22 years ago, a page was inserted in a bound volume for Jeffrey Epstein's 50th birthday party with what appears to be Donald Trump's signature on it, while Donald Trump was a close friend of Jeffrey Epstein's, and that's a fake. Donald Trump wants you to believe he was the only close friend of Jeffrey Epstein's who did not contribute to the Epstein birthday book. Today, Epstein survivor Liz Stein said this.
Well, I think it's important for people to understand that the birthday book was produced by the Epstein estate, so it's coming right from the source. And I think that we should all take a close look at some of the messages in there. They were extremely familiar and intimate, and I think that we're looking at a pattern of behavior with Epstein and some of his friends that has been going on for decades. And this birthday book is just more proof of that. This is incredibly traumatizing for us to have this ripped open again and for us to have to revisit this and see this on the news and in popular culture every day, everywhere we go. But on the flip side of that, I think that we're all encouraged that the estate is finally turning over some documents, because more than our discomfort in reliving this trauma, we want to see justice. And we are willing, as survivors of this crime, to do whatever we have to without putting ourselves in danger to really get to the bottom of this. And so I think that we are encouraged by anything new that's coming out.
The New York Times has made a giant new contribution to what we know about how Jeffrey Epstein did it, under the headline, How J.P. Morgan Enabled the Crimes of Jeffrey Epstein, reported by David Enrich, Matthew Goldstein, and Jessica Silver Greenberg. The Times reports, at Epstein's behest, J.P. Morgan set up accounts into which he routinely transferred huge sums for young women who turned out to be victims of his sex trafficking operations. Bank officials for more than a decade were anxious about Epstein's prolific wire transfers and cash withdrawals. J.P. Morgan ultimately processed more than $1 billion in such transactions for him and warned senior management about his suspicious activities. But on at least 4 occasions over 5 years, the bank's leaders overrode those objections and continued to serve Epstein. In 2003, Epstein withdrew more than $175,000 in cash from his J.P. Morgan accounts, a huge haul, even for someone with millions at the bank. Outside investigators later found that Epstein paid almost that exact amount to women that year. J.P. Morgan recognized that those withdrawals needed to be reported to federal regulators that monitor large cash transactions, but the bank failed to treat those withdrawals as an early warning system for itself. Indeed, J.P. Morgan's anti-money laundering specialists subsequently acknowledged that such withdrawals should have alerted the bank to the possibility that Epstein was committing crimes. The current head of J.P. Morgan, Jamie Dimon, testified under oath that he had nothing to do with the decision to continue doing business with Jeffrey Epstein. The Times reports the fallout for J.P. Morgan has been limited. In 2023, it paid $290 million to settle a lawsuit brought by roughly 200 of Epstein's victims, and an additional $75 million to resolve related litigation brought by the U.S. Virgin Islands, where many of Epstein's crimes took place. The payments were a rounding error for a company that raked in more than $50 billion in profits that year. The bank didn't admit wrongdoing and is trying to force its insurers to cover some of the litigation costs. No regulator took action against J.P. Morgan. No executives lost their jobs. Dimon remains one of the most powerful bankers in the world. Perhaps it's time for one of the reporters in the financial news media who get to question Jamie Dimon occasionally to ask him if he would meet with the Epstein survivors and see if Jamie Dimon has a better answer than, I haven't even thought about that.